Hello and welcome to the Cobalt Retro Shop. Hope you have an amazing day. Or something like that. Okay, so this is episode 1 of the Cobalt Retro Shop. This is a series where I'm going to be refurbishing old electronics like this original Xbox right here, which is going to be the focus of today's episode, and I'm going to be putting this up on my eBay store. Yes, just like my announcement video, every single electronic device that ends up in the Cobalt Retro Shop will be available for sale, including this very Xbox. So if you don't want to miss anything that shows up on the Cobalt Retro Shop to support this channel, or if you just want an electronic device of some description, please feel free to save my eBay store, link in the description, and please also don't forget to turn on all notifications for Cobalt Retro Tech videos, as that's how you'll be able to see Cobalt Retro Shop videos. Alright, let's get started with testing this bad boy. Okay, that's a great start. I can definitely hear that there is an additional fan in here. And it booted up without any issue. That's really cool. Yeah, and that's the thing about the original Xbox. Even if the time capacitor is intact, if it's unplugged for more than a few hours, it's not going to be keeping the time, which is kind of dumb in my opinion, but it is what it is. So I can see that this has an Xbox Live part of the dashboard, which tells me that this Xbox has been updated at least once. Ooh, settings took a second to load. Yeah, this Xbox was set to normal video, so this was probably last used with a CRT, if I were to guess, or maybe a 4x3 LCD. English, obviously. I'm gonna check the memory real quick. It's got a couple of memory things showing up here because I have some memory units plugged into the controller. Oh, and apparently those have data on there too. I'm going to check the hard drive to see if there's anything on here. Oh, there is stuff on here. And an Xbox Live account, man. I'm so jealous because I will never be able to have a valid Xbox Live account on my Xbox. At least if I don't go through Insignia, because I was way too young to even understand what Xbox Live was back in the day. Cool. I think I'm going to end up actually wiping this hard drive. Especially since there's someone's gamer tag in here. Plus, you know, someone else's saves, for the most part, it's not going to be super useful to other people. Even if I weren't interested in soft modding or hard modding this Xbox right now. Alright, let's put the controller to the side. We're going to go ahead and unplug this guy. Just trying to turn it on, make sure the capacitors specifically in the power supply are not charged, at least as much as possible. Yeah, and this whole pre-November 2001 sticker here is a little bit confusing. So, either this unit was set out to a store and sat in storage for about a month before the original Xbox originally released, or this is a review unit, or that's a totally fake sticker. So there are 4 feet here that are covering screws, like I said before, and also 3 screws that are covered by stickers. All of this should be possible to remove without significant damage. Oh man. Okay. Man, those feet are on there good. Because on the other units that I've taken apart as of now. Had feet that weren't quite stuck on there quite as well. Okay, I think that's starting to come back to me here. I think the stocks are actually on the facing the outside here, not the inside. Yeah. Yeah, I'm using a plastic tool here. I'll have to take that entirely off, unfortunately. I'm using a plastic tool here because I don't want to be scratching the plastic a whole lot. Trying to get these feet off. Alright. Okay, all those are off. Now I need to grab a Torx bit, because Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, thought that it was a bad idea to take apart an Xbox, but also, at the same time, make an Xbox in the middle of the capacitor plague. Which basically means that up until, like, from the mid-90s to, like, 2006 or so, every single capacitor in pretty much any vintage electronics, including original Xboxes, they're pretty much guaranteed to go. But specifically with the original Xbox, the time capacitor is the most known for defecating the bed, so to speak. And the thing about electrolytic fluid, the fluid that's in capacitors, is that will destroy motherboards. So if you leave electrolytic fluid or anything else corrosive on a motherboard for an extended period of time, say goodbye to your motherboard. Wow, okay, those screws are a lot longer than I remember them being, but that's probably a good thing. Okay, I have this screw sorter here that was technically supposed to be a bait and tackle box. I'm going to sacrifice 2 of these boxes here so I can keep those in their own thing here. I don't know if you can. Yeah, you can kind of see that. It's always a good idea to keep your screws in a very specific place like that, because if you don't, it'll be very, very easy. It'll be very easy to misplace screws. And if you misplace or confuse screws, okay, can you not? If you misplace or mix up screws, that can be bad in a wide variety of ways, depending on what happens. Some of you might be getting mad at me for what I'm about to do, but I would rather not totally destroy the entire label just to take this apart. Perhaps if I can have a little bit more practice with those plastic blades, that could fix my problem. But right now I want to preserve most of these labels anyways, and judging by the way that this label was peeling up, I don't think my method would work. I probably need to soak the labels in something like isopropanol or something before that would work. Let's see. Just gonna feel for the screw hole. So I'm pretty sure. I have at least one more. There we go. There's one. So we either have 6 or 7 screws here holding in everything. I'm not 100% sure, because it's honestly been a little bit since I've taken apart an Xbox last. But I think that was all of them, actually. Because the top case is starting to come out. There we go. I just need to finagle this off. And we have the inside of an Xbox. All things considered, this unit actually looks very good. I mean, the outer case has some scuffing. I think most of that wasn't me putting this unit on the table. All things considered, this unit actually looks really good. Either this was kept in a very dust-free environment, or the last person who owned it really cared about it and probably had it serviced at some point. I know I'm kind of saying here that this thing was probably serviced, which means I probably don't need to tear this down like this, but it's always a good idea to just double check everything and make sure everything is good, because you know this unit looks great. But I think it's possible that this thing still has an original clock capacitor. And like I said earlier about the... come on. There we go, gotta push down a little bit sometimes. Like I said earlier about the electrolytic fluid, if one of those leaks, it's a really bad thing. So, I've got this screw here that's holding down the DVD drive. Box 1, or 2, I guess. And we got another one. We take it out here. There we go. Oh, another thing I want to do is refresh the thermal paste. If that hasn't already been done, I might have to do that again anyways. As consoles of this vintage, even later 360s, they're getting really old at this point. One of the last versions of the 360 is already 10 years old, or just about to be 10 years old at this point. And thermal paste doesn't have a very long shelf life. Somewhere between like 5 or 10 years or something like that, and at that point it's probably going to dry up, or pretty much dried up right now. So if you don't know for certain if your console has up-to-date thermal paste, especially if it's older than about an Xbox One, I would consider opening it up and refreshing the thermal paste, because dry thermal paste doesn't conduct heat very well, leading to premature console deaths. So we have 2 screws from here. I believe that would liberate the actual like disk drive itself at some point. We also have an IDE ribbon here, which I'm going to have to take out as gently as I can. Let's take it out from that cable management. And let's unplug the disk drive. Oh wait, hold on a second. I just realized I haven't actually tested this disk drive. So before I go any further, I should probably pop in a game here, make sure it's actually working. And it seems to be working. Okay. Box 3. It could be about the same size, so I think we're good. Alright, let's see. Let's take this cable out as gently as possible anyways. There we go. Let's do the same with the power. We're going to do the same thing over here. Oh, interesting. This hard drive has some kind of rubber bumper on it. That's a first for me. I've never seen that before. Granted, I've only taken it apart a few Xboxes at this point, but still. Okay. I'm kind of pulling on the wires to get this stuff out. There's a way to do that a little bit more efficiently. and less destructively, as if you pull too much on the wires, that could potentially damage the connector. Okay, let's set the hard drive to the side. I'll have to make note to put the DVD drive in first. And that's the motherboard. Again, I'm not sure if the date on that serial number is correct, but considering there is an early version of the GPU heatsink in here, I'm willing to bet that it is at least a fairly early board. And I can see here this board is actually a little bit dusty, which, again, that's not a surprise. I mean, these systems are old. But I don't see any rust, so I should be able to continue taking this out. I should be able to leave the power supply in there, but I do need to take out the motherboard. Okay, there we go. That's how you take out a cable correctly. Interesting. There is, okay, yeah, there is dust on that fan, so I'm gonna have to clean that as well. Let's take out a few more of these connectors here. That one's for controllers. This one, main board power, I believe. Which, if I remember correctly, it's a little bit stubborn. Oh man, that's really stubborn. Okay, remember, blue wire on this main connector here towards the fan. Ugh. And I really had to manhandle that to get that out there. Jeez. That was a concerning amount of pressure that I had to put on the Xbox there. Come on. Yeah, need to finagle it a little bit. But we have the motherboard of an original Xbox. It's actually not too dissimilar to the size of a mini ITX board, oddly enough. It's almost like they used industry standard parts here. Let's see, there's a bunch of pads, I believe, possibly related to just alleviating mounting pressure. Maybe also for thermal contact, but that's also what these heat sinks are for. So we're going to take that with a grain of salt. The two biggest things with an original Xbox, particularly with the early ones, is taking care of the clock capacitor. So if you want to read a little bit more about this kind of thing, there is a great article on consolemods.org that goes over the clock capacitor of the original Xbox and a few different revisions that you actually have to keep an eye out for. It looks like if you're going to be working on a board 1.4 and above, they can be in a couple of different places. But in this board, it looks like this capacitor right here is the clock capacitor. Which looks like this capacitor is actually in pretty good condition, but just because it's in good condition doesn't mean it's non-functional or going to be exploding here in a little bit. And again, depending on your revision of Xbox, that might be a little bit different, so it's always a good idea to take a look at the console mods wiki entry and go from there. You always want to be really careful when it comes to a soldering iron, because, 400 degrees Fahrenheit, that is really hot. Okay. I think that side just snapped off, actually. I hope that didn't take up a pad with it. Okay. Alright, that capacitor is now off. Okay, well there's a slight change of plans. Apparently I don't have any compatible capacitors on hand, but that shouldn't be a problem, because as far as I'm aware, all boards up to 1.5, version 1.5, should work without the clock capacitors. It should still be able to store the time as long as it's connected to the power. The only problem with that without a clock capacitor is if you lose power or have to move the Xbox and disconnect power, it's going to forget the time. But it will also still forget the time even if it has a valid clock capacitor if you have it unplugged for more than a handful of hours, I believe. So if your Xbox has been sitting in the attic for like months or years, it's going to forget the time no matter what. So there's almost no point in even having this clock capacitor, especially since the OG clock capacitors that Microsoft used are so prone to failure. I've got to change the thermal paste. Good thing I have thermal paste on hand. Yes, I actually do have thermal paste on hand. Alright, so take off these heat sinks. It does require a bit of force. I have taken apart a board of this vintage, and my personal system is a little bit newer than this one. Oh. Oh, that's how you do it. Okay. Okay, that's loosened things up. Definitely made progress. Okay. I've learned valuable information for the next Xbox that I'm going to be taking apart. Oh! Okay. Come on. Oh, you know you wanna. Oh, come on, baby, you know you wanna. There we go. Just putting some pressure on the back of this bracket here, that helped. You can already feel that this heatsink is pretty loose. Does look like it has OG paste though, but I'm surprised that didn't glue this thing back on there. I've had problems with my systems doing that. Hopefully sometime in the future when I'm restoring more Xboxes I can actually have some clock capacitors on hand, but as I've said, unless I'm working on a 1.6 board, that shouldn't be a problem. 1.6 boards actually refuse to boot without a clock capacitor for some reason, but that should be a somewhat easy fix assuming I can find compatible capacitors for a decent price. Okay. So this fan is a little bit dusty, but not too bad, kind of like the case fan from earlier. And there is some dust on the heatsink here. Okay, I'm actually going to need this flathead bit here, so I can help get this pried off without breaking things. There we go. That's going to be a pain in the ass to get back on. Okay, this one's actually on pretty good. I don't have a hairdryer. I can't exactly turn this thing on right now to heat up the thermal paste. I'm just gonna have to brute force it. Unfortunately. Okay, if I can get my screwdriver in there and twist. Okay, that moved a little bit. My screwdriver in there again. Twist. I can see this, the heatsink is moving. There we go. Need some better leverage there. Okay. Yeah, in general, you want to be careful with this kind of stuff, but sometimes you just gotta get in there and use some force. Otherwise, you're not gonna get anywhere. Here's the situation I'm in at the moment. Microsoft, in their infinite 2001 wisdom, released the original Xbox with a very sticky, almost chewed gum-like thermal... I don't even know what to call it. I'll just call it thermal gum. I was able to get most of this off of the heatsink, but suffice it to say, if Microsoft used normal thermal paste back in the day, this would be a lot easier to clean. Wouldn't have to run it under hot water to make most of my progress. Isopropanol would probably work, but even then, if I remember correctly from the other systems that I've taken a look at like this is still going to be a major pain. So luckily I have a plastic blade here, which shouldn't damage the heatsink at all. Ooh. That did work. Though, yeah, it feels like old chewed gum. This is disgusting. Microsoft, why did you do this? This is making everybody's job harder for repairing these guys. Even Microsoft employees would probably have a hard time dealing with this unless they had like a very specific way of dealing with it. Which they probably did. I'm really thinking about it. But still, I mean, stuff like this is just being a major pain just to be a major pain. Okay, that did actually kind of help a lot. It's still sticky though, and I could still see the residue from the thermal interface. That's the word I was looking for earlier. I'm actually kind of surprised that this board actually came with the same compound on both sides, because I think my personal Xbox I ideally drive, I think that came with two different kinds of compounds, probably because it was a later board and they needed to make some adjustments or something for the newer style of heatsink. Part of me almost wants to use my flathead screwdriver to clean this off, but I know that would effectively destroy the heatsink, because that would introduce more gaps and thus decrease the effectiveness of this heatsink. So you don't want to do that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much as good as I'm going to get it. Now that this material is in a much thinner state, I think this is actually having more luck, but I'm also not 100% sure here. I can still tell that it's a little bit sticky, but I made a dent here. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's much better. All right. I think these heat sinks are ready to be reused. Yeah, it's still a little bit sticky, but there's not much I can fully do about that. I'm just going to go ahead and clean out the dust and debris from the fins here. I'll get as much off as I can, scrub with some alcohol, and then... Okay, we could scrub with some alcohol, and then I'll get the new thermal interface on. Really love the fact that Microsoft decided to cool these guys with chewed gum. It's not actually chewed gum, it's just, you know, like I've been saying, it really feels like it's chewed gum. Alright, this Xbox should be prepped for brand new thermal paste. It's not perfect, but that should be more than serviceable. If Microsoft was thinking back in the day, they would have used something more like this Corsair TM30 Performance Thermal Paste. Not sponsored by Corsair, just, you know, this is what I'm using. Want to be upfront about that. nothing but the best for my customers. At least to the best I can do. Get some thermal paste on there. That should be more than enough. Should be able to press fit this real quick. Just feeling real quick for moisture. I think we're good. I should be able to just wiggle it in there. Apply some pressure just to get an idea of what that's going to look like once it's mounted. Oh yeah. Oh, I could have sworn that was on differently. Oh well, not a prob. Now, since this is a raw die right here, this is actually going to be a lot easier on my thermal paste supply. And I'm not going to be using the plastic blade on it. CPU dies are a lot more sensitive when it comes to pressure if they don't have some kind of buffer or integrated heat spreader like modern CPUs do. Alright, and that should be more than enough. So, should be able to just slap that on there like that. Let's take it out temporarily, get a good idea. Oh yeah, that's more than enough. Alright, we're going to put this back on the same way. Probably doesn't matter too much, but it probably also does. So, I have a GPU fan here that I need to clean off. Grab some more isopropanol. Should be able to just brush that off. No problem. Oh my god, my neighbors are fucking loud. And IPA is actually something that evaporates pretty quickly, so I'm not going to have to worry about having this dry for an extended period of time. So earlier I had noticed that this Xbox came with an unusually early sticker for its serial number and production date. I'm inclined to believe that this is a fairly early system. If the sticker is anywhere near accurate, it's probably a 1.0 board. But I don't know if it is a 1.0 for absolute certain, because I'm still somewhat new to the original Xbox scene. I'm trying to show the whole bottom of the board here with the camera slightly zoomed in here. But yeah, I mean, other than the clock capacitor, which I've removed and shouldn't need to be replaced, everything else looks actually surprisingly good. So this board is looking great. I'd feel comfortable selling that. I don't think there's much I need to do with this power supply. There might be a touch of dust in there, but nothing pressing that needs to be done. I need to get more IPA. So at this point, all I need to do is scrub out this fan as it's a bit dusty. And then I believe there's some dust on the fan grill of this case. Other than that, I think that's pretty much the last thing I'm going to need to do. All right. So far, so far testing has gone extremely well. So I can say with confidence that this unit is ready to sell. Let me go ahead and get this buttoned up then. And I should be able to get this slapped up onto my eBay store as soon as possible. Okay. DVD screw 1, DVD screw 2. Okay. And then we have, oh, those are torch screws. Grab this guy. Okay, that one's secure. Plastic's a little creaky, but not only is it plastic, it's 20-plus-year-old plastic, so that's to be expected. There's one more screw. Uh-oh. Have I missed a spot? There's one, there's two, there should be another one. At least I thought there was. I mean, clearly, there is another one. I mean, at the end of the day... Oh, that's where that... Okay. The IDE cable is covering up where that screw goes. Perfect. Alright. Okay. That looks like it's pretty flush. Kinda worried that this right side, the hard drive here isn't sitting in there correctly. So actually, let me take this out again. Let me make sure that's in properly. I don't know, that might just be like that, but let me see what I can do here. Yeah, it's a little hard to see from the camera there, but this is sitting up slightly higher than it should. Oh! There we go. At least a little bit. Kind of. Not really. Okay. Alright, we're just gonna be like that, huh? didn't actually pay attention to that when I was taking it apart, so I'm just gonna try and put this shell back on and see what happens. Okay, that's backwards. Huh. Yeah, this shell isn't going back on the right side here. I gotta figure out what's going on there. I can't sell this Xbox like that. Okay. Alright. Getting a little better at taking out the Molex connector for this hard drive. Okay. Alright, what am I missing here? I don't see anything that's like overtly getting in the way. Huh. Try to put this back in and see what happens. I'm just gonna move out a wire here. Maybe it's sitting on things that it shouldn't be sitting on. Okay, come on. Okay. Yeah, I knew I could get it back on properly because I've done that with my personal system like once or twice. Okay. Yeah, I think the cables for the power supply were getting in a little. I think the cables of the power supply were getting in the way a little bit. Shuffled them around a little bit, and yeah, that's definitely in there a lot better than it was before. Okay. Let's get this threaded back through here. That plugged back in. This guy plugged back in. Oh, shut up, phone. Okay. Alright, that should be in there alright. We're going to tuck that in there like that. And this should just go back on pretty easy. Nice! Alright. Flip this back over and we are going to reinstall all of the case screws. There's one. There's two. There's three. There's four. There's five, and there's six. Guys, I can vouch for this screw keeping method. Look at that. Still gonna use this, but there's not a single leftover screw. I'm actually kind of proud of myself because I've actually been kind of struggling with that for a little while. No extra screws. At least that way you can actually tell that I care about refurbishing systems. Oh, that is not the right size for that. And that's not Torx. Well, my camera just happened to die right as I was applying that tape to this foot. But, I mean, it's not staying on there super great, but that should help it stay on there within reason. Try to apply some extra pressure. Honestly, I'm going to have to find some stronger double-sided tape here. Or something better to hold on the feet. But I mean, it should stay on for shipping here. Other parts of the system, though, just going to go ahead and just touch up some areas with isopropanol. Hopefully I can do something about those scratches on the top of the melamine sponge. But other than that, this thing is pretty much good to go. Get the fan grill again, just kind of go through this. Again with the power here. Go through general scrub. Shut up, phone. Jeez. Okay. There's that. Just gonna casually dust the rest of the system here. Okay. I mean, overall, I'm actually impressed on how good quality of this system was in when I got it, because this was sold as parts. I expected something to not work, like the hard drive or the DVD drive or the controller ports. No, this is absolutely fine. Okay, yeah, those are definitely scratches. This one, and this one, I actually might be able to go over with a melamine sponge. I'm not a fan of doing that, though, because that can impact the texture of the plastic. However, I'm not sure if it's going to be a big deal in this case. Okay, I have a melamine sponge here, dampened with a little bit of water. Whoa! That's kicking up some dust there. I didn't expect that. And it's probably more on the sponge, though, because this is a used melamine sponge. I mean, that is clearing up the scratch a little bit. Oh yeah, that's definitely from the sponge itself. It's not from the Xbox. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Oh, I've just noticed a tiny little cosmetic mark right back here. That definitely shouldn't affect operation of the console, obviously. But that is good to note. Other than that, it looks to be in pretty spectacular condition. Yeah, I'd be happy selling this on my eBay store. So thank you for tuning in to episode 1 of the Cobalt Retro Shop. I hope you enjoyed this content. I do plan on working on this process to make the videos a little bit easier to watch. And as always, you can feel free to provide feedback in the comments below on suggestions to improve the Cobalt Retro Shop videos, because I fully plan on making this part of the Cobalt Retro Tech channel, as much as I can, at least. So I do plan on making this part of the Cobalt Retro Tech channel, the Cobalt Retro Shop. I'm very excited about this. This Xbox is a very good first example. I have another Xbox that might not be faring so well, but that will be saved for another episode. Every single console and controller that pops up on this channel will be available for sale on my eBay store. Now, I don't always plan on showcasing games on the Retro Shop series. That's pretty much only if they need a serious cleaning, like this console, or if they need other kinds of restoration work, like a new battery on a Game Boy game or something. At any rate, thank you for tuning into this Cobalt Retro Shop video. This is going to be the first of hopefully many repair videos that will help supplement the Cobalt Retro Tech channel. And if you want this specific Xbox, if you're within the US, there is a chance that you can snag it. If you can keep an eye on my eBay store for this Xbox or any other console that might be popping up. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss out on any opportunity to help out Cobalt Retro Tech and get something out of it, feel free to save my eBay shop and turn on notifications for my channel so you never miss chances to support the Cobalt Retro Tech channel. Speaking of supporting the Cobalt Retro Tech channel, I have some cool music in the description that you can listen to for free, and I also do have a Patreon page that starts at $1 a month. Speaking of patrons, I have to shout out my Kilo member, Indian Mac, for helping make Cobalt Retro Tech possible. Thank you very much. With all that being said, I'll see you in the next one.